everybody's off. Everybody's off.
I think
Well, morning, everybody. So this morning, the holly and the ivy, and one or two other bits. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing the carol, but it is one of our most traditional popular carols. And in the words of the carol, the holly bears the crown. It was known as the Christ's thorn. The leaves represented the crown of thorns, and the red berries, the blood of Christ. The holly and the ivy were also two of the most important plants when it came to decorating the houses at winter. They were signs of evergreen life at bleakest point of the year. So they were important to all sorts of civilizations. It's pretty well the same with the modern Christmas tree. It's in its own way representing eternal life and green growth. The version of the carol that most of us sing today was recorded by Cecil Sharp in Gloucestershire in 1909. It became quite popular to sneer at Cecil Sharp at the end of the 20th century, particularly his rather idealized view of country life. But without him, many of the traditional songs of England and America would have been lost. There were various versions of the carol being sung in the early 19th century, but it probably goes back a lot further than that. And certainly the belief in holly and ivy in folk ritual and superstition goes back even further still. The holly was always regarded as a lucky plant. It was very lucky to have one growing next to the house, particularly if it was self-sown. It would protect against the evil eye, but it also protected against storms, lightning, fire. It was believed it was safe to hide under a holly tree in the middle of a storm because it would never get struck by lightning. A healthy holly, and particularly the berries, also protected against witchcraft. So it was always handy. So I'm always back to witchcraft. It was always handy to have one growing next to the house. Holly was revered by fairies for some reason as well. We have no idea why. Partly because it represented eternal life, and the Earth Mother or White Goddess was always associated with the plant. But it was particularly associated with the sun god. Now, whether this was Ra or Atum or Sol or as Helios, Apollo, it was their festivals that were celebrated at the winter solstice. This was the rebirth of the sun, which was particularly important in medieval times. If you're living in an old, cold, damp, dark, drafty medieval house, the coming of the light and the hope of better weather was particularly important. And I can talk with experience about that because I do live in a cold, damp, dark, drafty house. And it's always nice to get past the shortest day and hope for better things. The sun god became synonymous with the holly man, and the holly man lived in holly with prickle leaves. They were particularly lucky for men. The earth mother became the holly woman, and she lived in holly with smooth leaves, and that was particularly lucky for women. And if you're bringing holly into the house for Christmas, and it is very unlucky to bring it into the house before Christmas, if you're bringing it in for Christmas, you have to make sure that you get a good mix, an even mix between smooth-leaved holly and prickly-leaved holly if you want to maintain domestic harmony for the following year. You don't want one sort of holly to dominate, I'm afraid. It was unlucky to bring it in before Christmas Eve, so leave your decorating to the last minute. It was also unlucky to take it out before 12th night. And some people believe that once it was taken out of the house, it shouldn't be burnt because that was unlucky as well. The one exception was the sprig that was used to decorate the Christmas pudding. Always a traditional decoration for Christmas pudding. That should be preserved and buried under the burned under the following year's pudding to maintain the luck for the following year. It is all about good luck. It is about bringing good luck for the year. We all need a bit of that at the moment. Holly had all sorts of medicinal uses as well, but one that was particularly important in the winter was a treatment for chilblains. Chilblains are not so common these days, thankfully, because it's a painful condition. But the treatment was to beat the chilblains with a bunch of prickly holly leaves to let out the bad blood. This must have been a very painful process, but thankfully most people don't have to worry about it these days. The ivy was another very important evergreen, always used to decorate the house at Christmas, particularly on the Christmas crown that would be hung in the house. Some of these crowns could be enormous, but for a small house, you had a small crown. Again, don't bring it into the house too early. It was very unlucky to have it into the house very early. And if you do bring it into the house at Christmas, don't put it by the fireplace, because it's unlucky to have the ivy by the fireplace. I suspect 1 or 2 houses burnt down because the ivy caught fire, so that's why it's unlucky. There is some sense to some of these things. Ivy was always a feminine plant, and it brought good luck, particularly to women. And if it grew well on a house, it would also protect the house from witchcraft. Back to witches again. Ivy was sacred to Bacchus, god of wine, which has absolutely no connection with Christmas whatsoever. Drinking from an ivy cup was supposed to be a treatment for hangovers, or even prevented getting a hangover. An ivy cup was a difficult thing to find because an ivy has to be very old to produce enough wood to make a cup. Ivy leaves were hung up in lieu of an inn sign. So you used to see ivy leaves hanging up quite regularly. For anyone who knows the bar at the atrium in East Grinstead, that is called the Ounce and Ivy Bush. And that's where the ivy bush comes in. Someone at Wetherspoons has been doing their homework. The ounce also has important local significance. The ounce is an heraldic cat or leopard. It's also an alternative name for the snow leopard. And the Sackville family, who were the Earls of Dorset, had ounces on their coat of arms. And if you look on the roof at Sackville College in East Grinstead, you will see a stone ounce on the roof. I think they repainted fairly recently. And years ago, the cat inn would probably have been called the Dorset Arms, and it picked up the nickname the cat because of the ounces on the coat of arms, and the nickname stuck. So the cat is really the ounce or the snow leopard. Nothing to do with Christmas, but I'm always being asked why the cat is called the cat, so I thought I'd throw that little one in. There was a rather strange form of divination using ivy leaves. If you laid a ivy leaf on water on New Year's Eve and it was still green on 12th night, this was good luck. If it had turned black, this was bad luck and would bring illness. The problem with a lot of these, one of the many problems with a lot of these divinations that have to be carried out on a particular day was that in 1752, the whole of Europe changed from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar, and 11 days had to be taken out of 1752. A lot of people were very upset by that, but it did mean that all the days were mixed up. So 12th night becomes Christmas Day. Everything gets thoroughly confused. But that one, looking for healthy water, possibly does have a grain of truth to it, because I think that if you lay an ivy leaf on good, clear, good quality drinking water, it will stay green. If you lay it on stagnant water, I think there is every chance that it will turn black and show you that the water is not safe to drink. I have never tried it. If anyone would like to give it a try, please do. But I suspect that that one might have a grain of truth to it. So maybe I'll give that a try one day. Ivy was used in medicine as well. It was believed to be a cure for the plague, which it wasn't. But it was used to treat burns, and it is still used in some after sun creams to treat sunburn today. It's also supposed to be effective against cellulite, so it is used in some cellulite creams as well. So ivy is a useful plant to have. The third big evergreen, traditional evergreen, is the mistletoe, particularly significant for the Druids, probably because it grew between the earth and the sky, and they didn't quite understand how it managed to do this, but it was a unique plant as far as they were concerned, and it was particularly useful if it was growing on an oak tree. It should only be cut at certain times of the year, and that time of the year varied from Druid to Druid. They could never make up their mind on that one. And it should only be cut with a golden blade. Anyone who's ever had an Asterix fan in the house will know all about cutting mistletoe with a golden sickle. And it mustn't fall on the ground. It has to fall on a white cloth to be of any use. And it was used in medicine. And again, like the holly, it protected against witches and fire and lightning and brought good luck. It was also regarded as a very potent symbol of male fertility, and this continued well into the medieval period. I am not going to go into the details as to why this is the case, but it involves the leaves and the berries, and you can work out the rest for yourselves, I'm sure. This is probably where the idea of kissing under the mistletoe came from, and this certainly was prevalent by the 18th century. Again, you mustn't bring the mistletoe into the house too early. Hang it up in a room. In some traditions, a berry was taken off the clump for every kiss. It was bad luck to turn down a kiss, but you took a berry off for every kiss, and when the berries were all gone, the kissing stopped. Some traditions took this even further and said that the berry had to be swallowed for every kiss. But mistletoe berries are toxic, so please don't try that one at home. Again, you have to take the mistletoe out of the house at 12th night. You mustn't leave it. Though in Worcestershire, they do leave it all year round in some cases. So I'm not sure quite what that says about the people of Worcestershire, but they leave their mistletoe up all year round. It is another one that they used to use to decorate puddings. So when you're burning your holly under your Christmas pudding, you should also burn a sprig of mistletoe under the Christmas pudding as well, to bring good luck for the rest of the year. But there were other evergreens, and it always tended to be evergreens. Rosemary was used, sage was used. Rosemary has a lot of remarkable religious connections. The blue flowers were supposed to have been originally white, but when Mary washed Jesus's clothes and hung them on a rosemary bush, it turned the flowers blue. A rosemary plant was believed never to get any taller than Christ, and it would grow for 33 years and grow tall, and after 33 years it would stop growing up and would start only grow out. So there are lots of odd beliefs about the rosemary. And if you're looking for a late Christmas present, a box made of rosemary wood is worth considering. I'm sure there was some on eBay, because sniffing a box full of rosemary, box made of rosemary wood every day brings eternal life, eternal youth. So if you get one, it's very handy. From rosemary to the rose, not a plant that's generally associated with Christmas, but a fair bit of it will be consumed. Anyone who likes Turkish delight, Turkish delight traditionally was flavored with rose water, and some of it still is. So you might well be eating a little bit of rose this Christmas. There is a charming old Devon custom in which a young woman on her way to church and within sound of the church bells would pick a perfect rose while blindfolded, has to be blindfolded. She would then wrap the rose in white paper and keep it for the rest of the year. When it was unwrapped at Christmas, it would still be perfect. She would pin it to her dress, and the man who was destined to be her future husband would take the rose from her in church on Christmas Day. So it's a rather charming custom, but I doubt whether anyone's ever done it. Certainly not done it recently. There are other ones that say you can pick sage leaves. That is supposed to tell you who your future husband will be if you pick them on 12th night. Picking hawthorn at midnight on 12th night will bring you good luck. So there are all sorts of odd superstitions involved with picking plants, and it's all about luck. The modern Christmas plant is, of course, the poinsettia. I don't know whether anyone's got one in their house yet, but I'm sure some people will have them for Christmas. This was known as the Christmas Eve flower, although in Spain it's known as the Easter flower for some strange reason. It is a member of the spurge family, and it's native to Mexico, Central and South America. It is known as the crown of the Andes, or I have to check this one, the fire flowers of the Holy Night, which is a very nice name for a plant. Its association with Christmas in Mexico goes back a long way, goes back to the 16th century, when a little girl who was too poor to buy flowers to put on a Christmas altar was told by an angel to pick weeds. So she put the weeds on the altar and they flowered and turned into the poinsettia. And from the 17th century onwards, Franciscan monks in Mexico used the poinsettia to decorate churches at Christmas. The tradition went to America in the 19th century. The plant was taken to America by Robert Poinsett, which is where the name comes from, who was the American minister in Mexico. And the 12th of December, which was the date of his death, is still celebrated as National Poinsettia Day in America. And not a lot of people know that. Most of the poinsettias grown come from one nursery in California, the Echo family. And after the Second World War, they, as a publicity stunt, sent out the plants to all the big television companies in America. So these plants appeared in the big Christmas specials that Bob Hope or whatever were doing, and that's how they became popular in America. And something like 700 million poinsettias are grown in America. 70 million, rather, sorry, not 700 million, are sold in America every year, every Christmas. And the Ecker family is supposed to provide about 70% of them, and about 50% of the ones grown in Europe, sold in Europe. Now, everything else I've told you this morning is entirely true, but that bit comes from Wikipedia, so I have no idea whether that's right or not. One more thing, just to finish, I'm going to do my own publicity stunt for the friends. If anybody is after a bit of apple juice for Christmas, it is available. I don't have anything here, but if you do want some apple juice, then please do contact Sophie. Delivery is going to be a bit of a problem this year, obviously, but I'm sure something can be worked out. I think the forecast for Christmas is to be grey and probably wet, but if the sun shines through apple branches on Christmas Day, it guarantees a good crop and good luck, and we are due a bit of that. So it just remains to be said, thank you very much for listening. Have a Merry Christmas and a safe Christmas and a Happy New Year. And please do not take anything I've said this morning too seriously. Our ancestors are a fascinating lot. They did have some rather strange beliefs, but then so do we. So we're not all that different. So thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
Anthony,
and a Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, yes. Anthony, thank you very much for that fascinating insight into how to get good luck. So much there that I've never heard before.
Yeah, oh yes, there's a lot of it.
I mean, about 80% of that I've never heard before. I particularly like the idea of losing 12 days from this year by again. I think that's a fabulous idea. Bring 2021 here faster.
Can you imagine what chaos it would cause if we try to do it now?
We're not going to go anywhere near
days out of the calendar.
We're not going to get anywhere near politics and make any similar sorts of chaos which might ensue. In fact, we're going to that really, really quickly. Has anybody got any questions or anything you'd like to say? Deathly silence out there.
Silence.
Richard. Richard.
Yeah, Anthony, in the original, in the carol version that I know of The Holly and the Ivy, there's a reference to the running of the deer.
Yes.
I wondered if that's ever been definitively linked with the king-making ceremony, where the putative king every year had to put on a dead deer's skin and run with the deer, which was an extremely dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
And if he survived, then he was okay to be the king.
I haven't got a clue. I really don't know. I'm sorry. No, trying to explain the words of these carols, no, it is difficult. But yeah, it's perfectly possible. But I honestly don't know.
Right.
Sorry about that, Richard.
No,
I'll have to look that one up. I'll have to find that one out now. Give me something to do. Oh, and Richard, I will give you back your book that you lent me about this time last year. At some point, I will return it to you.
it's huge, I know. It'll take a long time to get through.
Yeah, keep me occupied. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Sue, you had a question?
Well, I was only going to say, when you said about all the things that bring you bad luck, well, I've done a lot. So I'm just thinking, God, I brought holly in, I brought ivy in, everything into the house when I shouldn't have done.
No, everybody does. Yeah.
I've survived.
And survived, yes. It's odd that, isn't it? Odd that. But no, I'm glad to hear it. But no, all these things, really, all the decorations should go up on Christmas Eve and be up for 12 days of Christmas. And that was it. But the 12 days of Christmas, certainly in medieval and Tudor times, were 12 days of celebration. These days, we tend to start earlier and get it all done by Boxing Day. But they did take 12 days over it. But then back to Plough Monday, back to hard work once the 12 days were over. It was about their only celebration. And of course, they did fast beforehand. So they did prepare for eating at Christmas. No meat beforehand. So they worked themselves up to it. I don't think we do that anymore.
No, I don't think the commercial demands of the 21st century sit very well with the fasting aspects of Advent.
No, it wouldn't quite fit, would it now? But no, it's amazing how many Christmas celebrations there are and what they're linked to, and we're continuing this long tradition. We don't always know it, but we are. It gets altered, it's twisted over the years, but a lot of what we do at Christmas and a lot of what people don't like to see done at Christmas is pretty traditional. I mean, even things like giving gifts and so on, that goes back to Roman celebrations of Saturnalia. So yeah, we're continuing a long tradition. But what people will be saying about us, if we survive, in a few thousand years and the things that we do, goodness only.
Yeah, some of our traditions might take some explaining, I think, now.
Yeah,
The modern
yeah, and some of our beliefs that we think the beliefs of people 500 years are strange, but as I say, what they're going to be thinking of us in a few years, I don't know.
Well, can't write history for them.
No.
Thank you very much, though. I think that was a fascinating talk. Thank you as well. I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you for seriously all the way through autumn. It's
My pleasure.
It's livened up down enormously. I hope we can look forward to a few more talks in the new year.
I'll see what I can come up with.
Well, that'd be great.
You've got to give me a little bit of a break, but I'll see what I can think up. Yeah.
That would be terrific if we can have something to look forward to. And it really just remains for me to say thank you very much for this. And I hope you have a happy Christmas when it comes. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Christmas. See you
Happy
next year.
Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thanks. Bye.
Bye.